Good evening. Welcome, everybody. This is your first time here. I'd really like to welcome you here. And I really want to challenge everyone to come on the retreat this next weekend, if you can make it, and if you feel called to it. Retreats are a great time for us to put everything aside and to open into something much greater consciousness, the place we normally live from. I can remember the first retreat I went on. It was like everything in my life changed after that moment. Like I was on a really good path before the retreat with my teacher and having this deep connection. But as soon as I set foot on that retreat, it was just like all the lights turned on and something began to wake up in me where I said, this is what my life is about, fully and completely. And not only did I say it, it was like God was saying it to me. God was like, this is your life. This is your life. Sometimes I meet people in the world and I look at them and I see they're living in a way that's not their life. They're just like, like I met this fella. It's kind of a silly story, but me and my little girl, we went to Walgreens the other day. I don't know if I told this story or not, but and the guy like who was working the cash register, he had like these big hoop earrings and like the not hoop earrings, the big, I don't know what you call them, the big hoops in his ears. I should know. My wife has them, but plugs is what they're called. And he had tattoos all over him. And he had this big, crazy hairdo. And he was looking at my little girl, and he basically said, "Hey, how you doing?" To my little girl, and she didn't really say much. She was kind of scared, and I was like, "How are you doing, man?" And he was like, I'm doing it. And I'm like, well, what are you doing? He's like, I'm not sure. I was working at a movie theater in LA. And then I came out here to go to some fire dance festival, like out here in Colorado. That's the kind of thing we do out here. And then my RV broke down and I'm stuck, like I'm stuck at Walgreens and working the register. And see, like sometimes life is like that. We find ourselves stuck somewhere in the world and we're doing something that isn't really our truth. And someone comes along and like looks you in the eyes and says, how are you doing? Like, what's really going on with you? And that's always an opportunity for us to deeply contemplate, like, what in the world am I doing with my life? And when you step into anything big, a retreat, it's always a big deal. And I don't mean that to scare anyone. If anyone's new to retreats, I don't want you to be afraid of a retreat, but it's a big deal. It's like you step into this container and it's like, oh boy, there is something powerful here. I've had actually a number of people like start a retreat and send me an email and they're just like, I'm not ready for this. I can't do this. And from one perspective, like a human perspective, I understand that. I understand that because a lot of us, we are happy just to kind of float. And I don't know if happy is the right word, but we're just kind of like, there's just something in us that's just still like half asleep. And just like, yeah, I'm just going to float, and I might float for another year or two or three, and people always tell me, they're like, like maybe I'll come back in the future. And sometimes they do. Sometimes they do. Like I remember people would come and they'd visit my teacher and they would turn pale in the face because there was so much grace in the room, so much light. And they were like, no. And I always laugh because it's like, what a crazy thing to say no to. Like, what a crazy thing. to say no to. Like with me, if you're like, hey, Greg, do you want to go to the doctor's office tomorrow and have a physical examination? It's like, no, like I don't need to be poked and prodded in any way. I'm just gonna just like stay out of that office. I don't need anything in there. I was like, you want to go on a 10-day meditation retreat? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's do it. Like, let's do it. Let's do it. You want to go rock climbing? Yeah, sure. Let's do it. Let's do it. And like the thing with trying something new or trying something big or something adventurous is sometimes or even often we fail. We fail. I actually had it like a big failure this weekend where, my buddy's like, hey man, let's go climbing. And I'm like, okay. He's like, pick me up. So I picked him up. And as soon as we were leaving town, there's this sign. We have these signs at the bottom of our mountain passes. So like the town I live in, it's in a valley. So um, two of the three ways I can leave town. Actually, every direction I leave, I'm going to go over a mountain pass. And so, at the bottom of the pass, it said, severe winter storm warning. And I looked at my buddy and I was like, oh man. And he's like, oh no, it's no big deal. Like, let's just go. And so we got out there and sure enough, like we got ourselves in a big winter storm. And, like here in Southwest Colorado, we're actually in, let me do the math here, Southeast Utah, because I'm just like 40 miles from the Utah border. And so we went over into Utah and into the desert. And, sure enough, as soon as we got there, the wind was howling and it started raining. And that's a rare thing, in the desert. Like the desert doesn't really rain much, but, the rain turned snow. And, we were just all laughing. We're like, yeah, we're not climbing today. Like, we're not going to go on a big adventure. But even just being out there and seeing like the mountains getting snowed on and like the big, massive, dramatic movements of the clouds in the sky. And, all of us kind of like huddled around a little camp stove and cooking and, telling jokes and listening to some music. And it's just like, what a beautiful experience. What a beautiful experience. Even though it was complete and utter failure. Like there was no climbing. There was no climbing, but what was happening was real. Was real. And so sometimes we go on retreat and I think, okay, I'm going to go on retreat. I'll be instantly enlightened and that'll be it. And, of course, it's not always like that. It's not always like that. I even went on a retreat in Maui with Adya, and it was really fun because there was this Brazilian fella and he sat up in the front row. He's like a Brazilian surfer. He had like a big afro that was kind of like bleached blonde, and it's just like this wild guy. And it's like as soon as Aji got on the stage, he like yelled out like, "Okay, everyone, countdown to enlightenment." It was just like Aji would be teaching, and this guy would like just like shout out like totally inappropriately, like a countdown, like 10, 9. And it was like, and even Aji was laughing. I mean, it was just silly, but like we have big ideas in life. And sometimes we have big expectations. And I encourage everyone to have big ideas and to have big expectations. Just to throw yourself fully, like both feet to the deep end of the pool, the deep end of the path. Like, come on, like how many lifetimes have we all lived? How many lifetimes? Like we've outlived so many things. Do we want another life where we just live in some, humdrum kind of way or ho-hum kind of way? I don't know how you say any of that, but mediocre kind of way. Or do we want a big life, a full life? And we have to be willing. We have to be willing to gamble in the highest way if we want to wake up. And I want to be clear here, like the only thing we're gambling with is our ego. It's just like we're calling its bluff. We're saying, what would my life be like if I didn't listen to that voice of ego, that voice of fear, that voice holding me back, that voice that says, you cannot do this. What would my life be like if I just don't listen to that voice that's always slowing me down? Instead, I listen to the voice of the heart. Like, what would my life be like if instead I just listened to the voice of my heart? What would happen? What will happen? Like, what could come? It's like if you listen to the voice of your ego, it's like, well, you probably will have a similar type of life of the collective consciousness, or similar type of life as your parents. You can have that type of thing. Or we could say, no, like, I don't want that life. I've seen it. I've seen it in the eyes of my parents. And I want something greater. Something greater. Something much, much greater. Now I want to tell a little story. So after, camping out and like failing at that whole experience, getting kind of socked in a winter storm, well, eventually I said, okay, I gotta get back home. And I had some big things that I was supposed to do with my family. So I was like, all right, I'll come home. And, my daughter was going to sing in the choir at the church, and it was like a big church party afterwards. I said, okay, I'll go home. And so I got home and kind of ran to church to see my little girl. And we have this new priest that came to town. And, for all this time, like when my daughter's been in school, we've kind of had like a really old conservative priest, does everything like kind of old school by the book. And he's getting near his retirement. And so the bishop, is like brought in his replacement. And he brought in a replacement, a priest from Nigeria. And this fella, like, he got out on stage and he had the little boys and girls dancing, just having so much fun. And he has such a big heart and so much love. And you could see like everyone in the congregation wasn't used to his style, like wasn't used to having this Nigerian fella, up there, having the kids, do a little dance. And, God, he did this song. It was so funny. The song was something like, so like he's singing the song like Jesus, Jesus. And then he says something like children. And then the children are supposed to say, oh, yes, and like throw their hips to one side. And then he says, Jesus, Jesus, oh, children. And then the children go, oh, yes, and they throw their hips to the other side. And he's saying it in his Nigerian accent. And you can see like this whole crowd, like the town I live in, I must admit, it's not that ethnically diverse. It's got a whole lot of like white crackers, and then it has a whole lot of like Hispanic folks, Latino folks, and then it has some Native Americans, of course, because we're a native land here. And he was just throwing down these beats, and he's saying Jesus, Jesus, oh yes. And the kids were dancing, and there was just so much love, so much love that was coming into the room, that was coming into the church. So beautiful, so beautiful. So he was shaking things up. And I saw him the first time that he did mass. he did mass with the other father, like the kind of old conservative father who was leading the mass. And, he was kind of, just like sitting back and, he wasn't really in charge. And so he had to really go out on a limb, to fully share himself. But the beautiful thing, like, when it was time for the mic to be his or the mass to be his, however you say that, he took full charge of it, full charge. And it was deeply welcomed, deeply welcomed. Now, it's possible that he could have been immensely rejected. Very possible that he could have been rejected. But he didn't care. The light of Christ is bright in him. That's the energy of the Christ, is to come forward with a big, I'm going to use this word, glorious open heart, and to share of himself, to share the beauty and the divinity of his heart, to share his soul, to share his rhythm, his dance, his moves, his smile. And I can admit, like, he's from Nigeria. He's got a pretty thick accent. And sometimes it was like hard, like I had to really listen, so I could fully understand, fully hear what he was saying. But when you see his face light up, his teeth light up, his big smile, and his heart just booming out of his chest, like, that's the message of the Christ. That's the message. And that's what he came, and he blessed us with his heart. He blessed us with his heart. And it's this funny thing is happening within the Catholic Church, where he told this story. He said, in the olden days, kind of like the white missionaries would come from Europe and North America, come to Africa and go on their missions and kind of, convert people and tell them about the good news of Jesus or whatever. And now he said he's the missionary that are coming back to our lands, because we don't have priests anymore. Like, no young people in the United States or Europe are becoming priests anymore. So he says, now we are being the missionaries, and they are bringing their unique consciousness, their unique love, their big open heart, their song, their dance, their radiance, and they're blessing us. So he's now on a mission, blessing us. And I was like, oh my God, that is so sweet. That's so sweet. In the past, missions have kind of gotten a bad rap, because they've done some rough things throughout the world. They've done some beautiful things too, but I thought it was so sweet that he was being the missionary and we were the ones who were on the receiving end. And what a gift it was. What a gift it was. And that's the great invitation here for all of us, is for each of you to share your heart, to share your beauty, to share your divinity with this world. It's a great invitation. And whatever that looks like for you, whatever that gift is in you, that's a massive part of our spiritual path. It's a massive part of us waking up, is for us to realize our gift and to share our gift. Sometimes someone will come to me and they'll say, well, Craig, I only want to know the truth, in a very like Zen-like way. Like, for me, when I was a kid, it's like, I just want to know. I just want to experience the vast expanse of freedom. But this truth will never come fully until you're first able to embody it. Like, we might experience the truth in a quiet, Zen-like moment. Like, we might get glimpses of freedom. But until we are free enough to see the fullness of what we are, to see our gift, to share our gift in a way that is not self-conscious, that's not holding ourselves back, that's not always, censoring ourselves or Like human beings, we do this funny thing where we reject ourselves first before, out of fear, because let me see if I can say this a better way. Like we might have a thought, I want to do this great thing. I want to share this great thing. Like we can feel this kind of truth beginning to bubble up out of our heart. But then our ego says, nope, you're not going to do that. I can't do that. The world won't like me. The world won't receive me. And so we reject ourselves first before we even give the world an opportunity to reject us. And boy, is this like a backward logic of like the math of fear. It's like fear is just like, yeah, let's hate ourselves and reject ourselves first so that we don't have to allow the world, we never have to experience that in the outer world. Now, the energy of being awake is to say, oh, screw it. Like, I'm going to go forward and I'm going to be what I am. I'm going to share my gift, my truth, my love with the world. I'm going to share it with the world. I want to share my divinity with all of life. With all of life. Now, I have this little friend, this little furry friend. He has 4 legs, and his name's Doodles. And he has a big heart, massive heart. And little Doodles, whoever is here, he wants to go meet them. And he does this thing where he wags his little tail and he just gets really excited to go meet whoever it is. And he doesn't care, if you're a human being. He doesn't care if you're a big, scary pit bull. He doesn't care if you're a big bear. Like, he wants to go meet you. He wants to share his heart with your heart. He wants to connect with his light to your light, his love to your love. And it's this grace that Doodles has. Now, little Buster, he's Doodles' brother. Buster lives in a state of fear. He's just like, he's afraid of everything. And then 2, he wants to like go and get you. And so if he sees anything, like Buster sees anything he likes, so like we were walking down the street today with Buster and Doodles. And Doodles sees like 2 dogs across the street. He wants to walk over there and go meet them. Buster wants to run as fast as he can. Now they're both on leashes. Fast as he can, barking, just ready to go in for the kill. And then you ever seen one of these dogs that runs as fast as they can on a leash, and then they get whipped around by their neck, because they're just totally lost, just lost in the fight or flight response and don't even know they're on a leash and they get whipped around in a circle, still barking and fighting. And I'm just like, Buster, what is going on in your consciousness, my friend? What is going on? And so I have to ask Buster, are you adding to the violence of the world? Are you adding to, all this World War III talk? Buster, can you be like Doodles? Can you relax? Can you be kind? Can you go meet your neighbor? Can you smile? Can you lead with love, not with fear? Can you lead with love, not with fear? So anyways, okay. If anyone has a question, please bring it forward. I would love to hear it. I know I got a couple emails. I don't know if I wrote them all down. Let's see. Okay, I'll start with this one. I found one. But if you have a question, you want to bring it forward, raise your hand. Okay, here's a question. Hi, Craig. I tend to get a bit OCD about some spiritual teachings. In the last year, you've often taught that we must share our gifts. Oh, look at this. I'm talking about it right now. Otherwise, we will suffer. I took that very seriously and got attached to the idea that I must share my music vulnerably without any walls, and then I'll be supported by God. Okay. Now I want to be careful here. So everything was true except for this last part. I must share my gift, and then I will be supported by God. This is the ego's idea, that if I share my gift, I'll be supported by God. Now, I'll tell you, there's this funny thing that God does with all of our gifts. God will give you a gift, and God will give you a challenge, and your ego will give you fear. So it's this funny dance. So God will give you a gift that you must share. You must share. Like all of us have a gift that we must share. So we've come to earth, and there's something here that's within us that must be shared. And we all have these egos that say, oh, I don't know if I share my gift. I don't know if everyone will receive me. There's a great chance that when you do first share your gift, you will be absolutely rejected. Now, the archetypal journey here that God is sending us on is a journey of discovering faith, of discovering confidence. And God is asking you, how much do you believe in the truth that's within you? And so I want you to imagine, imagine if God made you, let's say something like that your gift was to be an incredible ice skater. And my little girl, she's an ice skater. We call it ice dancing, so it's like, okay, little girl, you have this gift, you have this love to be this great, ice dancer. Go out into the world and share it. Now, come on. On the first day, she goes out and shares it. Like, she's going to fail miserably. Like ice skating, if you ever tried to learn to ice skate, it's incredibly hard. Like when I was a kid, we just go out on the ice and we would bust our ass every different way. Like we would get so hurt, we'd come home black and blue. It is a brutal experience, Like none of us just hops on the ice and, is doing perfect, whatever. It's like, that's not how life works. You go out there with your gift and you fail. Like we don't live in a world where you pick up a guitar and you can play Eddie Van Halen. Like that's not happening. You're going to go out there and you're going to fail again and again and again. And your ego is going to have a conversation with you. It'll go something like, oh boy, failure hurts. You probably should put that guitar down. Probably put those ice skates away. Should probably, not try to climb that mountain. Should probably just stay home and stay safe with your friend Anthony. Let's just do that. Let's just stay home and stay safe with Anthony. And at some point, your heart will say, I don't want to stay home and stay safe. I want to go out. I want to share my gift in the world. And so here's the rub that we have is we have this impulse to go forward, to grow, to shine, no matter what the challenge is. And when we listen to that voice, we walk in the direction of truth. When we listen to the voice that says, oh, no, you should just stay home, never leave the house. That's not a life of safety. That's a life where your ego controls you, where fear controls you. From a spiritual perspective, that's a life. That's not really life. That's a death. That's a death. And so, my friend, I want to encourage you to go forward. But the expectation that will be supported by God right away, I'm going to invite you to expect that you will be challenged by God, challenged by life, challenged by all the egos out there on planet Earth. They might smile at you. They might not smile in a good way. They might laugh at you. They might laugh at you. They might laugh at you. I had a good friend, one of my best friends when I first started teaching. He really encouraged me not to teach. He says, it's just like, don't do it. Don't do it, Craig. Like, there's too many teachers already. The world doesn't need any more. Don't do it. Like, don't. Like, what would you add to it? He like was really mean. He's really nasty to me. I forgive him, but I could see just from a psychological perspective, he wanted to be a teacher. He had a really mean dad who was always being harsh with him. And so just some of that habit was rubbing off on me. Okay, let me get to this question here. Because I didn't even get to the end before I started jibber jabbering. Okay, the person goes on to write, I almost lost a finger at work 2 months ago, and I will return to work this week. I'm afraid that life will create another accident if I don't share my gift. Yeah, he almost lost his finger, I believe, because he's a carpenter. Is that right? Let me see if I can find Johan. Johan, it's because did you almost cut your finger with a skill saw? Sawzall, something. You can type in the chat. If you stay in the trades long enough, you'll lose some digits. I almost lost a finger at work 2 months ago, and I'll return to work this week. And I'm afraid life will create another accident if I don't share my gift. Can you talk a bit about this? Yeah, let me just see what he says. I just have to see. Ooh, an electric hand planer. Ouch. Boy, that would be a. Oh boy, no, hold it up again. Hold it up again. Let's see. Boy, let me tell you, I don't want you going back to work with that big bandage on, because when you're working in the trades, you need your digits like really good, especially like your trigger fingers and just like this whole area. You want to keep it good. If that thing's all taped up, is like more likely to lose that thing, you know. You want to keep all those digits on your body there. So look, I don't want you to have a fear that God's going to cut your finger off. My God, if you go back into the trades, you can have that as a normal egoic fear. That I got to be careful on the job site because like work with power tools is dangerous, very dangerous. I've had a lot of close calls, but God let me keep all my digits. I got out of it before I cut one off, but I about clipped my thumb last month when I was building a barn in my backyard. But anyways, let's stay on track here. God wants you to share your gift. God wants you to share your gift. That's the truth. That's the truth. And I'm going to invite you to keep showing up and sharing your gift and doing the work that you love and believing in yourself fully, wholeheartedly until the day comes, when God will pay you, when God does support you, and that will come for all of us. And then we can let go of the carpenter job. Now, if you want a different job in the meantime, a safer one, making coffee for people or something, like maybe that's a safer job with not so much danger in it. Yeah, like you could do that. But you just keep showing up, my friend. Keep showing up, believing in yourself, putting yourself out there. That's the way forward. That's the way forward. In the meantime, like if you do choose to be a carpenter, I want you to pray every day before you start work. God, be with me. Guide my hands. Guide my hands when I'm working. Guide my hands. Guide my body. Protect me. Just envision a healing light around you, while you're working in the trades, working in the trades is great skills to have. We have to remember our good friend Jesus, Jesus, he was a carpenter, but, and I imagine like he was probably a carpenter for a long time. And then simultaneously, he just kept showing up, sharing his gift. And then eventually he could put down his saws or his tools and just go forward, sharing the good news with the world. And so this is the way. So you be safe, my friend. You be safe. But I don't want you to think of it as a curse. More often, like instead of God cutting your finger off, Like sometimes God will fire us, from a job. That's not our truth. God will just say like, hey, or God will give you just a worst boss ever where you're just like, oh my God, I hate this place. I hate this environment. I hate these people. They're so nasty. Like, I don't want to be around these people. And so at some point you say, okay, it's just too painful. It's too painful to sell my soul for this. Now listen, I know we all have to work, but sometimes there's things where God is telling you like, hey, maybe there's something different for you. Maybe there's something different. And so you listen, and that's a big part of the spiritual path, is for each of us to listen. God, what is my highest truth? Like, what direction is my life headed? And am I walking in that direction? Now, this is also an evolutionary world. So it's an evolutionary world where we get these great visions, but sometimes there's these stepping stones. With each stepping stone, you ask, like, God, will you guide me to the next stepping stone? Will you guide me to the next point? Will you tell me, like if we have to have a day job, which is most everyone, what's a good day job for me, God? Like, can you put me in a place with a good, healthy environment, a safe environment, something where I'll learn a thing or two? And can you lead me and guide me in this moment? And can you lead me and guide me in my higher manifestation of my greater gift? Because sometimes our gift doesn't manifest until we're like 67. Sometimes it manifests when we're 23. But we want to make sure whatever the truth is, that we're walking in that direction. We're walking in that direction. So anyways, beautiful question, Johan. Yeah. And you be very careful. Like, keep those digits, and the thing that like when I worked in the trades, it was I was working mostly with my teacher, which was wonderful. But the thing that it did, and my teacher reminded me this like every day, was because I was the biggest space cadet ever around him. Like, I would get around my teacher, my mind would just be huge, and there'd always be this light in me, and I'd be totally ungrounded. And he would just tell me like every day, like, look, we start the day grounded, we stay grounded. Like, we're working with our hands, we're working with our body, we're working with, nail guns and table saws, and, like, we worked with that planer and everything. The router is just like, you got to be grounded, like completely grounded. You have to be here in the present moment. And that was one of the great gifts of working with my hands, is learning all that. It's like, be here. And it's like you bring a consciousness into your fingers, when you're working with your hands. Sometimes spiritual people, we just have our consciousness in the clouds floating around. And, I can say this, it's a little bit silly, but like I was, like with my teacher, like I was the only one on payroll. Everyone else was just like, they were volunteers and they'd help out. And it's a pain in the butt working with spiritual people. A lot of times they don't know how to work and they're floating the whole time. And so, I'd have to harass them a little bit, make sure they got in their body, before they picked up, any power tools. And that's one of the gifts of life here on planet Earth. And the paradox is we are all given a spiritual gift. But that gift, it must come through like this world, this earthly body. It must come through a grounded container. And that's one of the great paradoxes of life here on planet Earth, is in our mind and in our spiritual vision, like there is zero limit, like none. But in your earthly manifestation, there's lots of limits, like tremendous limits. And we work with that intersection of how do I bring this hugeness of divinity into this material realm. And as we do so, we begin to transmute this realm into more of a spiritual realm. And so this is, a beautiful thing that we can all do. So thank you, Johan, for this question. Okay. All right, let's hear from Aaron.
Hey.
Yeah, hey Aaron, let me turn you up.
Great. Hi. Hi, everyone. Uh, cancel. My question today, Craig, has to do with I got home from exercising. I was in a very kind of spacious, calm place. Um, and my partner came in and was interacting with me from kind of a high energy, little bit of a dysregulated space.
Yeah.
And I looked at them and I was like, "You're dysregulated."
Did you say that out loud?
I did, but we do that all the time. That's not a
Yeah.
problem. It was more of a sense of like, you're bad. You're wrong.
Yeah.
I'm in a calm space right now, and
Mhm.
you're coming into my space and you're roughing up the place.
Yeah.
And it this is my silly example way of introducing this sense of like, oh, but this happens all the time, doesn't it? Like at an unconscious level, at a conscious level. This kind of, you kind of have talked about this politically recently. Like we're doing the you're wrong game
Yeah.
right from jump,
Yeah.
right from jump. That is
Yeah.
part of how we're interacting with people, and that's part of
Yeah.
the issue.
Yeah.
And I hear you saying, "Hey, stop doing that. Like, let's play the undivided game
Yeah.
and be open, and then we can fight with one another and figure it out from there."
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I would like to hear more from you about this because I recognize how much my consciousness does this. I'm surprised by it. Um,
So
uh,
why?
I'm I'm not surprised from like a
No, no, no,
psychological
not why
level.
you're surprised. Why does your consciousness like do this?
You know, if I were to drop in and go, why do I need to make other people wrong? I'm not so in touch with it in this moment, but like what comes to me is fear.
Yeah.
So I'm just afraid.
Yeah.
I'm just afraid.
Yeah.
Um, and however, I'm also stepping into a place more recently where it's like, oh wow, okay, I see that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have as much grip on me. It's like, oh, my partner, I they can be dysregulated. Maybe they can just be dysregulated
Yeah.
and I can just be me and we can just be us
Yeah.
together. And like maybe that's okay. Maybe that's okay. And like there's not just an intellectual sense of that, but like a kind of spacious, like, oh yeah, that's the
Yeah.
thing.
Well, and see that like that's the thing is like if you want to stay in a spacious state, then let us act like the space acts. Like the space does not reject anything.
Right.
It doesn't reject anything ever, ever. And so if we want to be free, then let us give freedom to the world.
Right.
Let's give freedom. And, you know, we want to give it to the world, but let's also give it to, like this will sound a little paradoxical, give it to the place within that
Right.
judges that the world shouldn't be this way. And so it's like my human self gets the freedom to be as it is. Their human self gets the freedom to be as they are. And I'm choosing to stay free.
Right.
Now, this is beautiful land that can open up within us where we actively like take this on like in an intentional way. I say, I'm going to allow all of life to be as it is, including myself. And right away, we start to feel, oh, like I don't have to control. And not only
Mm.
do I not have to control, like I don't have to be afraid. And you know, we might need to do a little bit of work around that afraid part. Like, do I need to be afraid if someone's dysregulated? Do I need to control if they're dysregulated? Like, do I need to do that? Because a lot of times it just happens out of habit. I think you said
Mm.
it. You said like it's just something like humans do is we just like we're always playing that other game or the judgment game or the I'm here, you're there game. But what if we just saw life from a place of openness and made, like a mini commitment in the morning or in the afternoon or whenever, just like, what is my life like if I allow everyone to be as they are? Like, what is that like? What is it like to be space and just allow the world to be as wild as they are, as dysregulated as they are, as crazy as they are, as beautiful as they are, as vibrant as they are, as confusing just like as they are. Like, what if, like, can I live in a way where I don't have a problem with anyone? And like, these are all just great inquiry questions to play with, and to just to break up that old habit of, you're wrong. Like, and spiritual people are a lot of times worse than just normal human beings. Of, hey, I'm in this vibe and it's cool and it's spacious, and like, can you not bother me? Like, like, I'm sensitive and I can't hear anything that's negative. Like, it's just like, what the hell is that? That's like the most hyper controlled state. It's like, I need everyone around me to be super positive. I need everyone around me to be spiritual.
Right.
I need, like, so many spiritual people are like, oh my God, I can't watch the news. I can't do this. I can't hear about war. I can't, there can't be any smells of chemicals. Like, and at some point it's like, we're just another person who's radically offended all the time and trying to control and dominate reality. That's the opposite of freedom. Like, that's the opposite of freedom. Like, if we want to be in space and enjoy space, like, be it, become it, be as it is, and see what life is like then. See what life is like then. So anyways, I apologize. Did I cut you off? Was there something else you wanted to say?
Are you going to bed? I'm talking quick. So I think another thing that's happened for me, and I did this with someone here, so I'm very embarrassed about it, but I really want to bring it forward, is that, the I'm better than you game. This is something that has come up very deeply for me in my consciousness. I played it out with my partner,
Yeah.
and it's like, even just talking about it is probably very good for me. This is something I'm not proud of in my consciousness, but
Yeah.
it is so present. It is so there.
What does it do for you?
What does it do for me? Give me a second. Yeah, I mean, it's a kind of armor.
Yeah.
It's a kind of armor.
Yeah.
I mean, it
But
provides
but
me
then
distance.
but then let's look at that in real life. Does it actually protect me?
No, not successfully. Not very well.
Well, not very well, but does it? Let's take it like to an absolute perspective. Does it actually protect you?
No. Yeah. So I hear
No,
how you're asking the question.
doesn't
Right.
protect me. It doesn't protect me. And like, that's one of the things, as we begin to wake up, we see all these little games of ego protection. Like, the ego kind of convinces itself that this is protection. It doesn't protect us. People are going to be however they are, whether we think we are better than them
Right.
or worse than them. Yeah, because it's just like, because
Oh,
I play
sure.
the card, like, I just play the card the opposite way. Like, some people are
Oh,
like, I'm the best. I play, I'm the worst.
I
Like,
play it both ways.
I'm the worst.
I want to be
And
very sure.
like,
Yeah.
neither of them protect. Like, if I play I'm the worst, it doesn't protect me. Like, my ego thinks, oh no, like, this is the way, because then you can hide and people won't see you.
Mm.
It's like Like if someone's gonna hurt you, they're gonna hurt you. Like if someone's gonna be a jerk, they're gonna be a jerk, and they're gonna be a jerk if you think you're the best or you think you're the worst. Like whatever ego armor you got, the person, the other person that we're fearing, it's just life's gonna do what life's gonna do. And that comes back kind of that first teaching, like when we really step into a place of freedom, and we see that life does what life does, and we can ask ourselves like if I do these sophisticated ego games, does it actually protect me from life? No.
Craig, you know what the deeper question is, though, is that, again, in this particular situation, it was like, oh, I'm going to let myself just be myself for a second. Like I have a part of me that has constantly stepped back and
Yeah.
doing a very intense self-monitoring, rigid thing. And
Yeah.
it has to do with like, if I am just myself, like really just in my body, in my consciousness, just doing my thing, it's not even that I mess up, it's that I hurt other people and I hurt myself. Like it's not safe. It's not safe to be here just showing up as me.
Okay. Yeah. So let me make sure I follow. So
Sure.
if I am just my normal, un, what's the word? Filtered
Yeah.
self.
Unfiltered, unadulterated, totally. Yeah.
Yeah. If I'm just my normal, unfiltered self, then what will happen?
I will hurt other people. I
You
will
will.
hurt myself. It's not safe.
So let's be clear here. So when you are your normal, just human self, you will absolutely hurt other human beings just through being your normal human self. That's true. You will.
Yes.
You
Yes, it
will
is.
absolutely hurt human beings. Okay.
Mm.
What was the second part of it? And you'll hurt yourself
I'll hurt myself.
through being your normal, unfiltered self. Tell me how you hurt yourself through being your normal, unfiltered human self.
It just has to do with a lot of internal dynamics this go around where there have been splits or polarizations where I'm
Uh-huh.
doing things like I'm overeating or I'm different coping behaviors that
Uh-huh. Yeah.
feel like self-inflicted pains as well. Um,
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So that'll happen. Yeah. Yeah. But let me ask you, are you more likely to heal with
mm,
this intense pressure and judgment and self-control, or if you just like relax and let yourself just be you and just understand that sometimes you do things that cause harm to yourself and sometimes you do things that cause harm to others?
totally. I appreciate the question. What I will say is that my intuition is
Yeah.
that like, oh, it's definitely when I'm stepped back and super rigid. But I get the point that you're making and what it
Well, wait, now hold on. You're moving way too fast for me.
uh,
When you step back, what happens?
my intuition towards what you just said
Hmm.
is that I will heal best when I'm stepped back, rigid, controlled.
That's your intuition?
I know that it's not correct, is what I'm saying, but
Well, how do you call that intuition if you know it's not correct? That doesn't make sense.
it does in that it's been a very predominant movement in me. And what I recognize when you ask that question is just how threatening, just how scary it feels to step into my body without that self-consciousness, without that rigidity. And like, oh God, please, let's not ever do that. Does that make
Oh,
sense?
okay, so that makes sense, but let's be clear here. Like you
Hmm.
step into your body and you say, like when you first step into your body, what do you feel?
Um, I mean, there's a lot of good things here. There's a lot of like spaciousness and
Mhm.
energy and
Yeah.
fullness.
Yeah, but
Um,
what's in your body that you're afraid of?
ton tons of tons of fear, self-perpetration cycles. Like it's a deep threat.
Uh-huh. Okay, good.
It's
So
a
I want
deep
us
threat.
to imagine we step into the deep threat with just like the natural goodness of our being that's what's the word? Filtered, unfiltered,
Mm.
uncontrolled.
Mm.
And we allow that natural goodness to be in those points of pain. And then just see what happens then.
Right.
Just see if your body, you started off the conversation with being dysregulated, if your body can heal itself through its own innate goodness.
Mm.
I don't want that to be like a big like plan or a goal or a strategy, but rather just through you being you
Mm. Mm-hmm.
and just like the natural goodness of you. Like, let's say you never had any spiritual teaching or read any books, never went to, psychology school or whatever. But if you just allowed the natural goodness of your heart
Yeah.
to be with the parts of you that were in pain, I bet the two of those would heal quicker
Yeah.
than if we had like a spiritual superego that was super rigid, the top down approach trying to heal and fix everything from the inside out.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's perfect. That's perfect.
And if
I
we
would
can
teach
we can
exactly what I
trust in
do.
that. And I'm gonna invite us like not to play in this polarity of I'm either like totally rigid or I'm like a hot mess. I want us to imagine that there's a heart in there somewhere that's a part of your unfiltered self. And the
Yeah.
naturalness of that heart, like the Buddha just called it innate goodness, could probably heal everything.
Could probably heal everything. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And so then the thing comes like, here's like the game with fear is like the ego's got a really good plan and it's got it worked out and knows how to do it all. But what if I just let go of all that
Right.
and just trusted this thing
Yeah.
and just see what happens? Like, what if I
Totally.
just trusted the innate goodness of my heart? And there's this funny thing that happens. Like, let's say, I think you said something about food in there. There's this silly
Mhm.
thing that happens with addiction. When our heart fully comes online in like a great place of addiction, addiction dissolves really quickly
Mm.
because our heart is there. Because
Yeah.
our body wakes up and says, like, oh, that thing I'm getting from sugar, I get it a lot better from my heart. Like it's just
Oh,
like so much better from my heart.
yeah.
Like so much better.
Mm.
And the sugar's like, I could have the cookie, but I don't really need to.
Yeah.
And like that clinging and all that grasping and all that makes up the hot mess, it's like really starts to fall away.
Absolutely.
And then like
Mm.
when we feel that innate goodness, like does your innate goodness think I'm better than? Like it doesn't think I'm better than anyone. It doesn't think I'm worse than anyone.
Right.
Like that innate goodness looks out and it's like, oh, I see goodness here and here and here and here and here. Like I see it
Totally.
everywhere. I see it everywhere. Even in the dysregulated. Dysregulated. I see it there too.
Totally.
I see it there too. And
Totally.
that's the beauty. Like that's the beauty. It's like their heart heals so much and it heals in such an unsophisticated way.
Right.
It's almost like I just call it like stupid simple ways. Just like the heart wakes up there and it's just
Mm.
like it's okay. Like we're okay. Life's okay. I'm here. There's love
Yeah.
here. There's warmth. Like and it doesn't even say that. It's just there's just warmth here. Just warmth. And that warmth is all what's needed to heal. So all
Yeah.
of us need to bring everything into wholeness.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's beautiful. One more thing, Greg. It's not a question. It's more of a reflection on what you're saying. I just really recognize that I am in touch with the innate goodness of my heart,
yeah,
that I encounter people there,
yeah,
and then when I, make a boo-boo, or someone makes a boo-boo, or we're making a mutual boo-boos,
yeah,
it's just like all the more like, oh, like, oh, this hurts.
yeah,
This hurts. But there's not as much of a need to shut down,
yeah,
make a story around it.
yeah,
It can just be like, oh, we want to reach out, we want to connect,
yeah,
and we got some thorns in here too.
yeah.
And maybe that's okay. Maybe
No,
that
it's,
can
it's
also just be a
absolutely
gift.
okay. It's
Totally,
absolutely okay. Yeah,
totally,
it's
like an
here.
innocence.
Well, and it's like we're human. It's like, my God,
Right.
we got thorns. We got all kinds of thorns.
Oh,
And sometimes they're ours. Sometimes they're other people's thorns. Sometimes we don't even know where these thorns came from. But it's
totally,
like they're all around. Yeah, they're all
totally.
around. Yeah, in this world. And like
Mm,
that's the thing. Like with that rigid place.
mm,
Rigid place has this idea is we should be able to live in a way where there's no thorns. And it's like
oh,
not on planet Earth. Like on planet Earth has lots of thorns.
right.
Lots of thorns. If we have an idea like, oh, this shouldn't happen, it's like we're out of the truth. Like we're not, like we forgot what planet we're on. Like we're on a planet with thorns and sand and mud and ice and beauty and all kinds of
Mm,
wonderful stuff. But that's the thing about this world is it's a big mix. It's a big mix. And sometimes like we get in a little spiritual mind state that has that rigidity in it that says the world should be this way, but it's not. It's not that way. Or at least it's not that way yet. It might be that way in a million years, but it's
yeah, sure.
not that way in this moment. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, Craig.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, beautiful. Thank you for sharing your heart with us. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Okay. Let's hear from Daniel.
Hey,
Hi,
uh,
Dan.
so I've been sitting in this place of like just this like simmering rage for the last few days. And it's like the part of me that I struggle the most with. And it just sort of wants to like pick others apart and just like destroy. Like,
Pick others.
I mean, if it's not others, it's myself. Like it
Uh-huh.
flips,
Yeah.
it flips on myself at times.
Yeah.
Um, and I feel like it's keeping me from healthy relationships.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I guess I'm just looking for some advice.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I love rage. And the way I work with rage is I open to it like a volcano and I just let it flow and explode and be vibrant and huge and vast and take up lots of space. I try not to put any words to it or uh, let it get connected to anything. I just let it flow. Like that's the way I generally work with rage. But I want to start with having a really positive attitude toward rage and not to say it's bad or it's wrong because like almost everywhere or everyone everywhere thinks that rage is just so bad, like it shouldn't be here, we shouldn't have it, but we all have rage. We all have rage, and it's just a part of being human. It gets us in trouble if it gets really directed at someone.
Right.
But if we feel into let's feel into the source of it a little bit and see what it's about and see if that'll give us a little bit of clue on how to work with it. So the
Yeah.
general way, and everyone can play along, like we can all kind of like close our eyes and just feel and just be like, do I have any rage in me? And like, if you can't find any, You're probably not looking deep enough. That's some good places to look are in the belly or the solar plexus. And so, Daniel, where does your rage, like does it have a root within you?
Yeah, it's tricky. Like, I'm angry at my parents in the past, but I'm living in their home right now.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so that's okay. We can be like the thing is like I'm not going to tell you go tell your parents, just go tell them off. Like we're not going to do that. But what
But that's
rather I want you to do is like you said, okay, it's rage from the past. So if you can
right.
find that little kid within you, right? I mean, was he little or how old's that kid who has the rage from the past?
I want to say he's like 11.
He's 11. Okay, good. Good. And so, like, again, if you close your eyes and everyone can play along, we find the age of our rage. And if you look into that 11-year-old's eyes, and like, if you just ask, like, first, like, does that 11-year-old have a right to be angry?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So we honor it, like, we validate it. Like, of course, that kid's angry. Of course. Of course. Of course. And like we could ask him, like, well, like, does he want to share like any detail of what he's angry about, or does he just want to be like, I'm angry?
No, he wants to share
Okay, good. Like just give just like a detail of what a little bit of that rage is about.
apathy and a lack of integrity
An
in
apathy and a lack of integrity in
and
the adults in the room.
yeah, and yeah, my whole like the adults in my extended family.
Yeah, yeah, the adults and the extended family. Yeah, yeah. So he's angry at the adults and the extended family. Now, just from a place of practicality, are we going to change those adults?
No.
No, like probably not. Probably not. Like that's the problem with adults is they just tend to do what they're going to do, and a lot of them are set in their ways, and so it's like, okay, they're probably not going to change. But if we look directly at that kid and ask him, what does he need, given this fact that he's in this situation and the people around him probably aren't going to change, what does he need?
A healthy adult.
A healthy adult. Good, good. And so, what would he like from a healthy adult?
Consistency in the actions, like integrity.
Good, good. So we're going to invite the healthy adult in the room. That's going to be you, Daniel. Can you be that healthy adult? Can you be the healthy adult to the 11-year-old? Can you be consistent with that kid within you?
Try.
Yeah, so that's a good start. How about we start by trying? And if we look at him, so he needs consistency, but like what does he need emotionally, that boy within you?
I think he wants me to like speak up.
He wants you to speak up. Okay, good.
Change things.
Say that again.
He wants me to like change stuff, like fix stuff.
Okay, fixed up. Now, are there things that you, as the healthy adult in the room, can fix?
Well, that's the tricky thing, right?
So that's the tricky thing. But I want before we get into fixing everything in the world, because that is going to get tricky. I want you to look at that kid, and I want you to look at his emotion of rage. I want you to see, does he need love? Does he need to be heard? Does he need to be held? Does he need to be taken out in the woods and allowed to scream as loud as he can fucking scream? Like, does he need to be, you know, go on a long car ride and listen to some Rage Against the Machine? Like, what does he need? What is, okay, good. So can we start, before we go fix the world, can we start by giving him that?
Yeah.
Can we start by giving him that? By giving him that. And so, like, if you're in the house with mom and dad and, you know, they're still doing their dance, maybe their dance is different now, but let's say they're still doing their dance. Sometimes it means we need to get out of the house and go for a ride, or just go out in the woods, or go for a walk, go for a place with not so many people around, and yell and make the like vein pop out of our forehead and our throat and our jaw, and just like scream till we're hoarse in the throat, and just like let ourselves pour out. Now that's just like the cathartic way, which I'm going to encourage. And I don't care if you listen to heavy metal or gangster rap or what, anything in between, just to allow it to come. I don't care if you get a baseball bat and you want to hit some rocks in the woods, like let it come. I don't care if you want to throw rocks, you know, at the sky or at the mountain or at the hillside or whatever. Go for it. I don't care if you want to run, you know, and scream, or just run and run it all out. Like, please, like, your body needs you to do all that. And that's just like on the physical, that's the physicality of it. The emotional part is we're holding a space of love. So it's the adult you is not getting carried away with the story of the pain, but the adult you is fully validating the story and the feeling of the pain. And that's a really fine line of acknowledging, like, I'm just so, like, there's fury here. And that child within me has every right to be furious. But the adult is actually holding a place of sanity, not getting too worked up about the fury, but rather fully allowing the fury. I want to be crystal clear here. I'm not talking about spiritually bypassing and be like, it's all an illusion, it's just a dream. Not that. It's acknowledging, like, there's fury here, and this fury needs to move, it needs to flow, it needs to be validated. But what I don't want is, I don't want a child who's angry at the parents, hating the parents, and then the adult being like, yeah, we're going to make them pay. Like, having two people hating the parents. I want the adult in you just to acknowledge, okay, my parents screwed up when I was a kid. They're a little bit different now. They're in their world. The past has passed, but there's still fury here, and I need to honor this and allow it and express it. Now, if it's fully safe to express it with them, and they are able and emotionally mature, and they are at a point in their life where they want to hear it and process it, great. If that's not them, you're doing that work with yourself. And 9 times out of 10, we're doing that work with ourselves. It's just like the world doesn't want to hear it. They got their life. They're too busy. You know, they're not in a place to be like, oh yeah, I'm really sorry I did that to you. You know, they'll probably defend and make you feel more rejected than when you started. And so we do the work internally, and we allow it to be expressed externally in nature.
I feel like
nature. Go ahead.
I get lost in the catharsis, and I lose that inner adult, like
yeah. And so that's going to be your growing edge, where you say consciously, like, I'm choosing to be the adult, and I'm going to allow the child to express everything the child needs to express. But I'm also remembering, like, it's 2023. Like, I can't do the math, but I don't know what year it was when you were 11, but it's not 2023. Like, and so that's like kind of, we remind ourselves, like, this thing that happened, it happened and it hurt a lot. It hurt a lot. It still hurts. but it's not happening now. It's not happening in this moment. So therefore I am safe, and I can be the adult, and I can be the child, and I can be the adult holding the child. And I can let the child unload. I can be the parent that I did not have. And that will force you to grow into Buddha nature. And as you grow into Buddha nature, like Buddha nature says, whatever is within me, I take responsibility for. I take responsibility for it. And I don't project it on others, and I'm not blaming others, but I do validate the story of the child, and I meet him with an absolute love. I meet him with an absolute love. And so that's going to be, the game that you're going to play with is, how do I invite this to come forward and not get lost in it? And there will be times when you probably will get lost in it. But when you do, let's wake up out of that and smile a little bit and be like, okay, I get a little lost in the teenage rage, the child within me. And, I need to breathe. I need to walk this off. And then, and then when I'm ready, I'll come back home to my parents, and I'll be able to sit down and have dinner with them, without, still having this, the angst of the child leading me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And this can be hard work. The meditative way is we sit and we let that fire come. We let it come. And the big thing is I invite you to envision that 11-year-old kid, like sitting in your lap, and you're holding him, you're breathing into him, you're allowing that fire to flow up the spine, out the top of the head, the same way kundalini flows, and you can let it kind of dance a little bit with kriyas or whatever. You're just letting it flow. And you can even sit, like I can remember just sitting, just being like, oh. And just imagine being like one of those cartoon characters with smoke pouring out my ears, just like this rage just pouring out of me in a state of meditation. But when I open my eyes, I reach down, I touch the earth, I say, okay, this is what's real. I'm not in any danger. No one's screwing with me. No one's harming me right now. All this rage is just old pain from the past that's emptying out, in the form of meditation. So I just let it flow up the spine, out the top of the head. And my God, like I sat with rage for like a decade. A decade. In one form or another, like it would come, like oftentimes it'd come in like these 3-month periods where it would just be like. And the thing about it is like when you really feel into rage in a non-dual way, and we don't fight it, like I was just speaking with Aaron a moment ago, if we look at rage, if we experience it, if we don't get caught in the story, and we just feel the heat of it, the fire of it, and the hugeness of it is actually a wonderful tantric doorway into your power, where you feel that you are as big as the earth. And you just allow yourself to be that big. And at first it can feel a little bit like being an egomaniac. But if you just ride the wave of it and you feel it, and you just like notice, like, my God, like this rage that's flowing through me. And if you melt and merge into the rage and just allow yourself to be the rage, it's just a lot of energy. And if you trust your heart, like I was speaking to Aaron about, that you're not going to go out and kill everyone. It's just like I've trusted you that you're not going to go out and kill everyone, but you allow yourself to be big. Like this is actually the energy of the Christ. Like this is the energy of any great master. They are a huge human being. But I'll tell you this, and this is good for you to know, is we do have like a little like safety mechanism in our superego that says, I can't go there, because if I do go there, I'm going to go crazy.
Right. I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah. I'm going to go crazy. And like, there might be a little fear in you, just with the history and the family and everything, that like, I can't go there because then I will be like X. And it's like, I want you to trust that if you do open the doors and you stay with your experience, but not with the thoughts. So I don't want you to go with the thoughts. I just want you to go with the direct feeling of being really big, really hot and fiery. Like that's what rage is. It's just big and it's fiery. And then it ends up, being just like, this is where you're just like a great, great fiery being who takes up a lot of space and lives in a way that's fearless. That lives in a way that's fearless. I don't know what's that thing.
Yeah, I don't like it.
That's popping up on the screen, but anyways, you just let it flow. You let it flow. And there's this thing that, like, if we truly want to be, a spiritual adult, an autonomous adult, this is actually one of the qualities of kundalini. This awakening forces all of us to recognize the hugeness of our being. And sometimes it takes us into the hugeness of our being through like vast, like transcendent realms of divinity that we open to, and we feel like we're one with all of life. That's wonderful. But this doorway that we're speaking about today with rage is it makes you feel so utterly big and so utterly embodied that you become ridiculously fearless here on planet Earth. And it happens in such an exquisite way that I encourage everyone to open this doorway, because when it happens, you walk around and you feel like you're one of these like NFL linebackers. It's just like, like 300 pounds, just this massive human being, giant muscles, afraid of no one. But like, we might not have that frame. Like I certainly don't have that frame. Like I'm not that big of a guy, but I tend to walk around with this fearless state of consciousness because I open the door to this huge aspect of my divinity. And it's a very funny thing, because most spiritual people are like, oh no, I can't go there. Because one, I'll go crazy, or two, I might say, and Aaron said this, I might hurt someone's feelings. And it's good just to know we will hurt people's feelings just through existing. Just through existing. Like, we might hurt someone's feelings through being big, but it's not our job to walk around worrying about everyone's feelings. Our job is to live the truth. To live the truth. And part of the truth is we are huge. We are spiritual giants. We are not here to be, these little teeny egoic, fearful beings. We're here to be these huge beings. And so there's a lot here for you to play with. There's a lot here for all of us to play with if we begin to open the doors. And like the number one thing I want to remind everyone is, when you open to rage, don't believe the thoughts that come with rage. The thoughts are often like, I need to kill, I need to destroy, or I need to tell them that they are wrong and they're bad and their politics are wrong, or their religion is wrong, or they're a Muslim and they're wrong, or they're Jewish and they're wrong. It's like, no, we don't need to do that. We don't need to go tell someone they're wrong. But we do need to be big. We do need to be big. Occasionally, you need to tell someone. You got to step down. But more likely, like when rage is moving through you, it's often not the time that we need to be going around correcting everyone. When rage is flowing through us, we need to just allow ourselves to be this hugeness that we are, and to get comfortable being big. And then eventually, when we're very comfortable being big, this energy will no longer have like the pushiness of rage. It'll just have this feeling of taking up a lot of space. And then when we take up a lot of space from a place of truth, we might find ourselves speaking up a lot, but it's not in a way that's coming off as like correcting people, or, I need to tell you how I'm feeling and make you wrong somehow, or whatever. Yeah. And so there's a lot there to play with, but I'm going to invite you just to see if you can open that door, and like we can all play with it, just like opening that door through music, through dance, through running, through going out in the woods, kicking something, throwing something. And then we can play with it sitting in meditation, just allowing yourself to be like a volcano. to be like a volcano and to see what comes. See what comes. See what that experience is like. See if we can be the volcano. And notice how that affects the quality of our consciousness that is normally fearful. Yeah. Okay.
Cool. Thank
All
you.
right. Good to be with you, Daniel. Yeah.
Yeah.
Much love. All right. Okay. So let's end by this. I'm going to invite everyone to close our eyes. And let us invite great peace, great clarity, great love within our own self. And my God, we're praying for peace and sanity in this world. We're inviting peace to go forward, to shine out, to hold, to embrace Israel, Palestine, Iran, Turkey, the United States, Russia, Ukraine, any country who's willing and ready to go to war. Let us invite the flames of war to calm, to cool, to be flooded with light, to be flooded with the truth, be flooded with energies of reconciliation, of forgiveness, kindness, compassion, sobriety, sanity. Let's invite this beautiful world of ours to wake up to the goodness of our hearts, to the love of our being, to wisdom, the wisdom of peace, the wisdom of compassion, the wisdom of kindness. Let the nations of the world come together in healing and reconciliation. This is our ongoing prayer, Lord. We ask that you bless our world. Please, truly, bless us all. May we be instruments of thy peace, thy love, thy truth, thy compassion. Let us go forward sharing our gifts in the world. God bless you all. Much love to each and every one of you. Hope to see you all soon. Please sign up for the retreat soon. A number of you have signed up and lost the link already. So please do that in advance. Don't show up last minute. All right. Peace be with you all. Good night, everyone. See ya.